So we have got sort of a kind of fun one. I have to say, I don't like to call it fun, but it is fun when bills are used. So let me just break this down. This is a show where where I basically take the YouTube fundamentalists algorithm down the rabbit hole and stream the entire way. In this one, it's kind of funny because this group of fundamentalists are really upset that the book ban that they supported ended up swinging back and hitting the Bible. Well, doing basically the exact opposite of what they wanted. But you know, everybody got to use the same rules, and so that's just how this stuff works. Unfortunately for them, and very fortunately for us, because it's just I'm sure it's going to be hilarious. I honestly have not watched a single second of it, but I really like I really like these folks. They're just super funny, and it's just should be a lot of fun. They should have a pretty, I would say, overall is like you're going to get the reaction that is pretty much the reaction that most Christians are going to have due to this particular news, and they kind of embody what all of the fundamentalists are thinking about this. So it's going to be really fun to kind of see what they're thinking about it.
I'm going to get my colleagues' reaction on something that just got released in the news.
There's a meme I've been thinking about a lot lately, a viral tweet that reads, and I quote, "I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces."
Oh, that's that quote. I've heard that, and I'm always like, I don't know what they're talking about, but I love the sentiment of like voting for the leopards eat my face party, and never thought they'd eat my face though, kind of thing. And now I get it. It's an Adrian Bot tweet. Okay, got it.
It's an adage that has been proven relevant, time and again, when the American right is forced to reckon with the consequences of its own actions. Most recently in Utah, where Republicans passed a law targeting books in school libraries that contain, quote, pornographic or indecent content. And wouldn't you know it, that very law has now been used to restrict access to, wait for it, the Bible.
Hell yeah.
With the holy book in one hand and signs in
it's
the
a
other.
Huge one too. What is that massive thing he was holding? It's gigantic. Wow.
Frustrated parents calling out the recent decision by Davis School District that voted to remove the King James Version of the Bible from elementary and middle school libraries.
That lady's holding a sign that says the Bible, the foundation of America. Holy shit. No, the fuck it's not, lady. Snap out of it.
Thank you very much.
The move coming after a complaint was filed with the district in December, when the district received an anonymous grievance that said the school district was ignoring, quote, one of the most sex-ridden books around, the Bible, adding that this edition of the Bible, quote, has no serious values for minors because it's pornographic by our new definition. Get this porn out of our schools.
But yet there's porn in the schools. Yeah. Literally, there's people that are in
Utah.
Yeah,
so they're all talking over each other.
That's really sad. I mean,
wow. They're protesting. I'm sure
that's crazy.
If you keep up with what's going on in schools, like there's parents that are reading these books that are for elementary school, and they're like, stop talking. Sorry. Oh, does it make you uncomfortable?
No, that's just, see, he's already lying. I know exactly what clip he's talking about. It was a book in a high school library, and they went and started reading it during a hearing that, they were saying like, hey, anybody could be here hearing this. Can you stop? Because that book was obviously for, more adult, higher aged kids. You know what I mean? Like high school kids. That's what I'm gonna say. Higher age kids. Jeez,
comfortable. Like this is in the school for the kids.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system?
Not surprised though.
Yeah, and it was a book that was specifically for high schoolers, specifically about their experience of going through puberty and things like that, and all those interesting things that happen to children that they when they start to become an adult. And they probably should be able to read a narrative form that keeps them interested so that they know what to look out for, especially if they happen to be queer or, or something like that.
Not really.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's like this is it's kind of a natural consequence between separation of church and state, right? So if you're going to draw those lines and say, everybody has the right to worship to the dictates of their own conscience and all that, I guess I'm
Where are you going with this, man?
less upset because maybe I homeschool. And so it's part of our curriculum. And as long as my kids are getting it at home.
As long as I can brainwash them at the house, I'm okay. I don't really care what the heathen schools are teaching about, Satan probably being in Jesus' spot or something. I don't know, something evil like that.
Yeah, I feel bad for the kids that are in public school that they don't have access to that. But really, it's the parents'
You should feel bad for your homeschool kid. As a homeschool kid, I can tell you, you should feel bad for your fucking poor kids that have to listen to your bullshit taught to them as if it's true, screwing up their head for the rest of their life as they try to traverse this crazy world with only half the information that they need, and constantly having to feel like people are lying to them as they're traversing the rest of it. It's really frustrating.
Primary responsibility to educate.
But what's surprising is the reason why.
Yeah,
the Bible is pornographic. I mean, the most I hear is like, let her breasts satisfy you or something. That's far from pornographic compared to what's out there.
Have you read Exodus? What is it? Ezekiel 30, 32, 30, something like, or 21. I can't remember. But it says their penises were the size of donkeys or whatever, and their emissions or come with the amount of horses. Like, it's not. And there's other parts in there too that are just there. I mean, there's incest. There's bestiality even at one part. I'm pretty sure. There's an unreasonable amount of violence. There's all sorts of evil shit in that thing, and they want to freak out because there's like a couple queer people in a story. Just being there, just existing in the story, and that's enough for them to freak out. But they want their book with all of this sex shit all in it. But because it's part of their very important holy scripture, that it has to be allowed in the school. Otherwise, Satan or whatever.
The Bible, I would say, is pretty discreet when it comes to sexual relations.
Right.
It says Adam knew his wife,
right.
And it doesn't go into detail.
Pornographic.
The only thing that I would say an argument can be placed on is the book of Songs of Solomon.
No,
the definition of pornographic means showing or describing naked people or sex in a very open and direct way.
Wow, they don't even know their own book. That's insane. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll just put in I'll see. I should have had this already ready, but let me see if I can do it. Just because I want to make sure that the context is correct. So that Ezekiel penis first. Hold on, and I already know what I'm talking about. Like it's already. Oh yeah, no, we got the penis first. Yep. Ezekiel 23:20. She remembered her lover with a penis like a donkey and a flood of semen like a horse. That's Ezekiel 23:20. If you ever want to mess with like your religious family, you know how like when you write a birthday card, you know how Christians love to put like little Bible verses. Just put Ezekiel 23:20 at the bottom. Just do it. Just leave it down there. They love to do that. They love to like put a little Bible verse tag for you to go look up. So give them, just return the favor. Give them Ezekiel 23:20, and they can they can learn about what the Bible has to say about horse penises. It's a lot of fun.
In order to cause sexual excitement.
Yeah.
But there can be an ongoing debate as to whether that is applicable to what is being discussed in the Bible or not.
I guess if I kind of look at this objectively, when my children were really little and we would read to them out of the Bible, there were certain things I did not read to them, not because I disagree with the information, but more or less that my children wouldn't understand that.
Right.
And this is a collection of books. I think the Bible is literally a example of
humanity all throughout different cultures, different lifestyles, different everything. This is what happens when humans do this and that. And it's like giving us advice.
Why not history? Why can't you just read a history book? Because that's literally like, that is what happens when humans do this or that. It's a history book, man.
And it's always not
You can do it without the magic and the talking animals that are just going to confuse them. Not to mention like the end times and all that crap, so that, you know, one day the kid will wake up when everybody's like down the street talking to a neighbor or something, and they freak out crying their eyes out because they think that the rapture happened and they were left behind. You can leave out all that bullshit if you just decide to read them a fucking history book rather than your goddamn brainwashed nutbag book.
Going to be just fluffy, positive. You know, it's going to say, hey, look, if you have multiple wives, this is what happens to a lot of the kids' relationships with their parents. You know, and it gives you advice like that.
What are you talking? What if you have multiple wives? This is what could happen to you. And are you what? Are you Mormon? What's happening here?
So I think as a parent, you need to be, you know, cautious. I don't believe that the entire Bible should be read to a 3-year-old at certain points. But, you know, that is interesting that they're willing to just take it out completely.
Yeah, just the whole thing.
Well, it's funny, too, because they haven't even addressed the reason that it was taken out. The whole reason that it was taken out is because they made the law so vague that you could literally just call up, say, hey, this book offends me. And then they just got to ban it because they didn't want to have to sit there and go through every single claim of every single person that had some kind of problem with some kind of book in some kind of school district. You know, so they were just like, hey, you can just call, say the name of the book, we get rid of it. It's out, you know? And so the dude just like, okay. And he called and was like, hey, the Bible, and like, you know, and they have to play ball because they are the ones that made up the rule specifically to attack any kind of queer representation in any kind of books that are in the library at all.
I've never been aroused by the Bible, just to let people know that.
I would agree with that.
I guess I'd be interested in what their new definition is.
That was actually a pretty good joke. You know, I'm going to give it to that guy. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was
like
by our new
who
definition?
decides that, and then how does that get communicated to everybody? It's like,
and I'm kind of really, I guess, questioning his advice. Really sit and think about this more. Why is there not a discussion on broadcast TV? I mean, you clearly have people engaging in sexual activity on broadcast TV. Yeah. Why aren't you, you know, advocating to take that down? I mean, if you're gonna,
because we're not advocating to take any of this shit down, man. You guys are. You're the ones that have a problem with everything that's out there, and we're just playing your game back against you. That's all this is.
Have this kind of dumb to even know with words in a book that don't even show pictures.
Exactly.
Why are you going to allow to the public pictures? And
hold on, the book that was like Q is for queer or something like that. That doesn't have pictures, as far as I'm aware, but it did like describe some sexual situations there, and they freaked out about that shit. So I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with pictures. Like pornography doesn't have to be in picture form. Trust me. Just read one of those books with the man on the cover with the big muscles and the nipples showing. Make sure that you read that one, and then get back to me about how porn cannot be in written form.
Scenes of clearly not that. I mean, Game of Thrones. There was rape in that TV show.
It's a fucking HBO show, man. That's an HBO show. Yes, yeah, HBO it's not just television, okay? It's not, all right? It's HBO.
And I guarantee you kids were watching that.
And the
HBO
or Cinemax.
Why would you guarantee? First of all, I certainly fucking hope not. That show basically scarred me. All right, I'm fucked up now from watching that show. I'm traumatized now for all eternity. No, I really don't think there's a whole lot of kids out there watching Game of fucking Thrones. First of all, it'd be boring. Would they actually sit through that much dialogue? Like, it's just like them talk. There's a couple episodes where it's just conversations. The whole thing. That's it. Just conversations.
Go to full-on rape. Yes.
Well, I
like naked stuff. Like nude.
How can our society be okay with that on
this guy's making like, hold on, though, can you describe the rape? Like, what the fuck?
Any level. I don't care if you're pretending for a play or what. It's like that is not something we should be displaying as art.
Well, even on like mainstream.
What about the statue of David? You know, we got to get rid of that too, right? That David, it just, you know, got a white shriveled penis just hanging out there. You know, come on now, can't have that.
To be like airwaves, like Fox would
Say
show
art.
stuff. You know, people in bed doing things. And so this is only in Utah.
It's so funny.
It's interesting.
It's just so funny to watch these like super duper prudish people like trying to have a conversation about sex, you know, and like what's appropriate and what's not, because they've all been raised in a way where it's like vilified to the max, so that there's no understanding of gradation. To them, it's like rape is the same thing as like sleeping with somebody you're not married with. Like they can't parse it out. It's almost like the same problem that the DARE program put out there. You know, it's like, hey, all the drugs are evil. All drugs are evil. They're all equally. Marijuana is just as evil as heroin. All drugs are bad, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it doesn't separate the stuff. Like kids don't understand like that, you know, if you're just saying it's all evil all the time, then they're not going to understand very important concepts like consent, which definitely should be taught to children. But because of people like this, they get into the school board and they're like, but the Bible doesn't say anything about consent, so we're not gonna have that taught. You know, that's not important. This is Utah.
And too, because even Fox News has been called out by other news outlets for being too graphic in their showing of things, almost like they're trying to draw attention to human sexuality.
Oh, wow. Yeah, really? That doesn't sound like a trick that some wealthy businessman that's in charge of a media empire would want to do. No, they would, you know, sex sells is not something that people say all the time that's in that field. Like
proportionally, like they'll have, for example, they would have like more images of women in inappropriate clothing or, you know, stuff like that versus other networks.
Dude, they're like, the Fox required women to like they had to wear a certain inch like height of heels, was one. And then they also had to wear short skirts that are a particular length as well. It has to be short. The heels have to be high. Then that's a requirement, you know, to work there. If you can't wear high heels or you have trouble wearing a certain height of high heels, sorry, can't work here. That's serious. That's like an actual thing.
People calling them out.
I'd like to direct the conversation for you to answer specifically as fathers. Now, for some of you, you homeschooled your children, which is fantastic.
No,
that's not necessarily practical for
the
broader population. So what would be your counsel, or even if you put yourself in the situation where you have to send your kids to school, public school at that, because there's situations of private school versus public school, but let's keep it public since this is the context of this video. What do you do, especially as Christian fathers? How do you react to it? Is there something we should do, or is this just prophetic and you kind of just go with it? What is some counsel you could share?
I think it's always
oh, and cheers here. Hey, so what's inappropriate clothing? I don't know. I mean, I guess too sexual or something, like too revealing, I guess I would say. My mom would call it sleazy. If it's sleazy, then you can't wear it. You know, that's but my mom thought Jessica Rabbit was sleazy. Well, she is kind of sleazy. Anyway, I don't she might have been right about Jessica Rabbit. I don't know, but I wasn't allowed to watch that movie because of her.
A good option to sort of beat the world to the punch, to talk to your kids about these topics. I mean, sexuality is such a major part of humanity.
No. See, they're always acting like we're out to like hurt their kids. No, here's the thing. A lot of parents don't talk to their kids about this shit, right? They're, you know, these same people that get all up in arms about, hey, this is the type of thing that should be taught at home, don't teach this shit at home. You know, they just say that it should be taught at home and then they don't do it, you know, and that's why kids like don't know what the hell is going on, don't understand consent, don't understand like what's happening to their body, don't understand any of this stuff. I mean, I was given a book that I did not read called Almost 12, and that was it. That was all it was. And it was basically just like, hey, you're going to get hair. And I'm just like, okay, whatever, you know, and that was it. And then so when everything started happening, I was very confused, but I could see that there was enough like fear of anything surrounding this kind of subject matter that I didn't ask about it at all, because I could see how uncomfortable it made my family. You know, if I had gone to a public school, I would have been able to ask the teacher, because teachers are a lot more just cut and dry about shit. Oh yeah, that's this is that, whatever, but I wasn't able to do that because I was homeschooled and they never taught me about, any type of sex, anything. So,
and they're going to cross that bridge at some point in time. So to try to give them the proper context of why we have this thing called sexuality, why did God give us this to share between a man and a woman in a married setting? And what is that supposed to do for your relationship? To kind of write that in a correct light. Then when they get the wrong picture, because if you send your kids to public school, I'm sorry, it's not if they're going to get exposed to it, it's when they're going to get exposed to it. They have in their curriculum.
What? The factual information about reality that, about like sexual, like STDs and things like that. And the fact that queerness is a thing that exists. And there are those of us that are in that community. Like that's something like that's just reality. There are kids going to school with two parents of the same sex. What are you supposed to say to them? Fuck you. You don't exist. What the hell is happening? Jesus.
Curriculum dedicated sex talks with kindergartners. And so,
yeah, dude. And here's the disgusting part. I just had to have this conversation with somebody and they're like, oh, they're trying to sexualize kids. And I was like, no, they're not. No one is trying to sexualize children. The thing is that we have to at least have some kind of conversation with them at a young age so that they understand that if anybody, even a member of their household, is trying to touch them in a way that they don't approve of, that is bad. That is wrong. Young kids need to learn that. It's unfortunate that we have to have that conversation, but that's the world we live in. We live in a world where bad things happen, and a lot of times those bad things that happen come from members of their own household. So we have to have this conversation. It sucks, but I think if we can narrow it down to consent, then you don't have to get into all the nitty gritty of it all, right? You can do the consent thing, right? I still think you might need a little bit more context than just the consent part, but it is really important that we talk to little kids about that sort of thing so that they can speak up when it's happening, so we can get some of these kids out of some of these situations before it gets super, even more harmful than it already actually is.
It always starts back at the home. Have some healthy discussions, and obviously you can be as censoring as you need to be based on their age. But I would probably say by 10 years old,
and fix your fucking microphones, man. Like what the hell? Like so look at your studio, man. I paid like $40 for mine. All right, and I got it's like
you probably should have had a conversation.
But really, the debate is about the Bible being banned in your public school.
It's like, hey guys, we forgot what we were talking about.
It's really the conversation. So I think, telling your kids about this is prophetic. Look how the attack on God, that it's being, especially because of what it's being banned for. If it was just like a blanket thing, like we don't have religion in the school, then you have to get rid of Harry Potter because that's Wicca. You have to get rid of anything Quran or anything related to.
Is Harry Potter Wicca? That's a Wicca thing? That was like a Wicca holy book that's taught as fact? Really, man? Are you kidding me?
Religion.
There's people that believe Harry Potter. Really, buddy? Okay. Jesus.
But because of the way it's being removed, I think that's a great opportunity to talk to your kids about prophecy. And look, they're trying to hide the truth from young people.
So when they're going to be banned?
How do you go from teach them about prophecy and then go into their hiding the truth? You want your kids to all believe Illuminati fucking conspiracy nonsense. That's what you want.
Ending the Bible in the school. So it's not like a Bible class, or the Bible is going to be
Just the Bible won't be in the library. To be honest, I don't even think I ever found a Bible.
He's like, wait a second, was there a Bible class being taught? That's crazy. No, just being in the library.
School library.
Yeah.
So, and if there was, I probably wasn't looking for it and reading it. I was interested in other things. It is. It does. Sure.
But it's a political stunt because of y'all's political stunt that makes it so that any book can be banned with a fucking phone call. That's why. So we just like, okay, and then we just banned your shit. And this is a childish back and forth. The solution is not, oh man, so now I guess we got to have the Bible ban. No, it should be, okay, then fuck these bans. These bans are stupid. Can we just undo the bans then? Can we not? That's what the solution should be. We shouldn't, be excited that the Bible got banned. Like, we should be, hey, can we undo the bans now? You know what I mean? Because this is fucking stupid.
I don't doubt that at all. Probably will sweep the nation.
Let's see here. So Edgier said, kids need to learn and use proper terms for genitalia. Example, a child says, my uncle plays with my doll parts. A teacher won't be alarmed and report it because it doesn't sound like genitalia. That's a good point. Yeah, they need the correct terminology just so they can report this sort of thing. That's why, like, nobody wants to have to talk about this stuff with kids. Nobody wants to have to do this, but we do, because it makes the world a safer place if we do have these conversations. And I know it sucks. It does. It really does suck that we have to, like, sort of get ahead of these kinds of problems, but we fucking do.
Yeah.
So prophetically know that this is going to go in that direction. I think that as the world teeters towards the pendulum of godlessness, there will be a point that people get sick and tired of this. And
I wish they would just let it happen. Like, there's so often you got these people that are like, oh man, we're on the narrow road, and we're so persecuted, and we're just so small, and this, that, and the other. And they're like, okay, now let's use our powerful branches of government to, like, take over the goddamn country and force everybody to live in accordance to our religion. Like, wait a second, are you on the narrow road or not? Like, what is happening here? Why do you expect people that aren't your religion to act as if they are part of your religion in order to live in the country that you live in, where you are acting like you're the minority? It's unbelievable how
realize that we need to have a moral compass, and I guarantee you that it's going to swing back the other way and twice as hard. So, it is interesting to see this happen in our day and age, but it's probably not the first time that this has ever been attempted.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not in the Bible said that people gotta be seeking the word of God and they cannot find it.
Yeah. It does say that.
Famine.
And
it'll be a famine.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. My parents always
So he's just like, so it's okay. We're all okay here, guys.
tell me, like, you need to memorize verses in the Bible, because someday we're gonna have the word of God. So you need to have the word of God in your mind. Remember the promises, stuff like that. So it's like we kind of live prophecy right now, because you never heard this before. Maybe you some crazy guy is like, oh, maybe someday, we need to remove the.
Teacher said, there are age-appropriate ways of discussing those things at various stages of development. You start with names of body parts and teaching them about bodily autonomy. You don't make them hug. Yeah. That is true. Like, you don't have to make this a weird thing. I mean, it can just be something. I mean, and that's what I always thought it was for public school. It's just sort of like a cut and dry. Here's the facts, just there you go. This way, what's happening in an educational setting, because everybody knows that their parents are wrong about a lot of shit. I mean, I know a lot of kids think that their parents are geniuses that know everything a lot of times, but, like, they go to school and realize that, like, this stuff, their parents won't tell them certain things, and that's one of them. It's like, that needs to be taught at school.
The Bible from the schools and stuff like that.
See. So it's make them hug their creepy uncle if they don't want to. You teach them that they can say no to someone invading their personal space. Yeah, and honestly, that's what I've seen from a lot of my teacher friends that I've talked to. They've said that we go over autonomy and consent, and so it ends up coming up. They said in, like, funny ways, because they'll be like, somebody will brush against them in line or something. They'll be like, I didn't consent for you to brush up against. So but that's great. That's great that they understand it, and even to that level, even though that's in a way that we don't really normally hear people talk about consent, but it's great that kids understand it to that degree.
I bet. Yeah. Now it's gonna be that's a first state. I mean, I don't know if there's different more.
It's even funnier as I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so they're worried about pornography. Well, why is that wrong?
Yeah, what's their moral compass?
I mean, really? So you're like literally removing the book that would set the precedents for pornography being wrong from your midst.
So are you
there's other ways we can come to conclusions about what is right and what is wrong other than your book that says that slavery is okay, right? And that beating your slave is particularly okay because they're just your property. You know, that's Exodus 21. You know, it's so I don't want to hear it about you thinking that your book is the arbiter of morality, you know, and that's not how anything works. It's not how it will ever work because your book is actually quite evil and harmful and gross. Okay.
Suggesting that something you watch can be bad for you?
Oh,
I mean,
insert meme right here.
It's
I mean, yeah, as far as like pornography goes, once it's age appropriate, I guess if you're a kid looking at it, it's just inappropriate and can like desensitize the kids so that they could be harmed from people that that want to do gross things with them. But as far as like once they're 16 and 17 and stuff like that, who gives a fuck? I don't care if they look at porn. You know what I mean? We all did, as far as I am aware, and I was even a homeschool kid, and I still looked at porn. So
very interesting.
I get
That's
whatever.
another LED light.
The Bible literally teaches you not to have sex with anyone unless you're a husband and wife married in a covenant for life. Seems like it's pretty good.
Weird silence after that, and they're like, yeah, we've all sort of broken that one. But
I don't need that book. But pornography is wrong.
That thing's pornographic, man.
It sounds like what might be taught at home in the Christian context would be rebuttal, or there would be a different teaching in the school. So how can a parent navigate that to where it might even boil down to the types of papers the child writes may get bad grades if they share their Christian beliefs? What advice, as we wrap up here, what is advice?
Come on, that I don't think, I mean, unless there's a really weird teacher of some sort that's like, but basically this Kevin Sorbo character in God's Not Dead. Other than that, which is a cartoon of what an atheist is in the minds of religious people, I really don't see teachers doing that. That just doesn't sound reasonable to me. I don't, even if it's about their religion, like we don't sit there and go, oh, their religion. This child has been raised religious. Like we're not like so angry with it, we'll give them bad grades. No, I just don't see that. I think they're going to have some integrity and grade the paper accordingly. It's based on what the student actually did well in the paper or didn't do well. But I will say that I think that they probably will show up and be like, oh, you gave my kid a bad grade because you hate Christians so much, though, because they have that weird persecution complex.
Yes, you can give.
I think your children are always going to be faced with different ideals at home versus what's out in the world, whether it be in the public or the public school system.
Doesn't that tell you something?
Legal system.
Doesn't that tell you something that like, hey, you're living in a fucking fantasy world? If they can just go outside the front door and then you're like, oh, they're going to learn about things that we see as false just from existing outside the walls of our home where we're trying to like, do the fucking the village type of thing where we're just going to keep everybody away from the outside world in any way, shape, or form. Like, and they're just going to, all that does is anger your kids. All that does is make them feel like they've been lied to their whole life. And you're just going to make a bunch of firebrand atheists, dude.
System or whatever. And so our job as parents is to teach our children to submit themselves to God, that God
Yeah, Jay says I was literally typing a comment about their persecution complex when you just said it. Yep, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, that probably doesn't happen as far as like getting bad grades for being a Christian, but I guarantee there will be kids that parents actually that believe that is what's happening and tell that to their children, who probably know better. Probably like, I don't think so, Mom. Maybe I just didn't tick. Yeah.
They're bought with a price. God is the one that paid that price for them. They need to put every decision, put themselves under that, if I would, precious yoke. You know what I mean?
No.
You're going to be a slave to something, and you could be either a slave to Satan or you can be a slave to God. And the beautiful thing is, if you become a slave under God, he's going to set
this is insane. Wait, is he going to say set you free? If he says you're going to be a slave to God so that you can be set free, I'm going to fucking lose it.
Free.
Oh my
God,
God,
really a
God,
slave anymore. You become a
this
son.
idiot.
And so we have
hold on. We have to listen to that whole fucking thing again. I'm sorry. We have to hear the stupid one more time.
That if I would precious yoke, you know what I mean? You're going to be a slave to something, and you could be either a slave to Satan or you can be a slave to God. And the beautiful thing is, if you become a slave under God, he's going to set you free. You're not really a slave anymore, you become a son. And so we have to teach them how to think for them.
That is so stupid. It's like literally violating in the same sentence the law of non-contradiction. Just don't contradict yourself, man. That's like such a simple ask for just how to reason. And he's like, no, yeah, if you're a slave for God, you're free. God, that sounds stupid. Why does it sound stupid when I say that?
Themselves. We have to teach them how to go to the Bible for their answers and not just depend on us, because at some point,
how are you going to get answers for things in the Bible, man? Like, what are you going to ask about the internet? What are you going to ask about driving? Like, when should I drive? When's the safest place to drive? Where's the safest place to drive? You're going to find that shit in the Bible? You're going to get anything about that in the internet? About the internet in the Bible? Like, you can't get your answers from the Bible. It's nonsense, because all that ends up happening is that you just make a decision because you make a reasonable decision based off of actual reality. And then you just back it up with what you just find a Bible verse like that. There you go. I'll just use this one right here to say that's why I did that. Like, that's all they do,
They go out of our home. They're out from under our roof. They have to make their own
spooky. What's up? Cool.
decisions. So we have to teach them to be adults, essentially. And that's tough. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, and you guys suck at it because a lot of you seem like you're still children.
And we don't always
think like them for the most part.
We don't always do it well. We don't always do everything successfully. We don't always do everything right.
What is this music?
We just have to do the best we can with God's help.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's so funny. They're like, oh, bring in the emotional music right here. It just said they're gaslighting themselves. Yes, they are. I mean, isn't that just religion in a nutshell? That's like religion in a single sentence.
And that's where grace comes in.
Well, thank you all for your insights. If you've seen anything in the news,
just like, I'm still here too. I am a woman, and I am also here.
Have an idea for us to talk about, you can leave it in the comments, or you can reach out to us on our social media, or you can send us an email at littlelightstudios.tv. That's also the same link you can go to donate.
All right, well, that's that. Let's see what else we got here. I like to go on, like, once you watch one like that, you'll usually get a bunch of, it's crazy how popular the Daily Wires, they always manage to have one in the top 3, right? And I am subscribing to them, right? I'm subscribed to it, but that's the point. I'm trying to like get my algorithm to be sending me the craziest, weirdest stuff, but they always are right up top. Right up top. And this dude too. It's crazy how this stuff works. Maybe I click a bunch of this guy's, but I think it's just because he's got a huge following. What is this one? Okay. Aliens are tricking us to believe. Oh boy. All right. It looks like aliens are tricking us.
I'm fascinated with is that it's finally coming out, and now the question is, what is it?
Whistleblowers usually would just be quiet and like disappear. These guys are doing public interviews, saying that they have aircrafts and they have these bodies.
Over a dozen,
which is crazy.
Bruce Lawn.
I remember reading a book. Did you ever meet the Future Shock guys back in the day?
No.
Okay, so Future Shock, Tunnel Rats, Future Shock.
I know the Tunnel Rats.
So Tunnel Rats, some of the guys from the Tunnel Rats were a group called Future Shock out here in Oceanside. I read, or he used to go by Red Bones, Ajax, who's oddly enough like a big show.
He went by that. He called himself Red, but no, that's Don't say that.
Shows like Duck Dynasty.
I certainly hope it's not a white guy.
Like, stuff now, yeah. And then my buddy Caps and Sojourn.
Jesus.
Okay. So Caps and Sojourn are still North County, Ajax, and Red. They're brothers. They moved away. Long story short, so when I came to faith, God did something really interesting. I was at a mega church, and then right after I made my public declaration of faith, it was a 2-year process for me wrestling through, is Jesus God, you know, or is he just a son of God? Like I was dating
it sucks that you have to have that like coming to reality. That's like how you parse out, like how a person would parse out like determinism versus existentialism. like, man, where do I fall here? Where's my, is Jesus God? Is he just a son of God? Was he just kind of friends with God? Was he just a prophet like from the Quran? Like what? I don't even know what to do with all this. This is like deep philosophical stuff.
When this girl got saved, finally surrendered my life to Jesus after 2 years of fighting with God. And I went to a Miles Ahead crusade in 2002. Miles McPherson. Cross Movement performed.
Oh yeah, those guys with the palm.
I want to say POD performed, but I don't remember. And then the very next.
Anybody remember POD? You guys remember them? They did that. We are the youth of the nation.
Week I ended up meeting Future Shock, and so I had this like mega church mainline type of experience, but then I also had.
It sure said, did cultural appropriation throw up on that guy? Yes, it did. That's awesome. That's a great way to say.
These guys that were artists, creatives, intellectuals, thinkers, the whole bit. And long story short, the conversations of aliens would come up all the time. And so I remember Red giving me a book about the Nephilim and about, these fallen angels.
If anybody's not aware, the Nephilim are I guess you can Nephilim it too. You can pronounce it as wrong as you want. I don't give a fuck anyway. There's like 2 verses in the Bible that refer to the Nephilim, and it's about the angels or demons, really, fallen angels coming down, fucking women, having sex, right? Not just fucking women. No, I'm not saying like they are fuck anyway. And then they had kids that were giants, and that's what the Nephilim is. It's totally true. I mean, it's totally a reasonable thing to think is true.
Angels coming down and breeding with the humans, and then that's where Goliath came from that line. All this crazy stuff.
I never heard that one. That's new to me. That Goliath came from that line, because I thought that they were Hebrew, that they were being with Hebrew women. And that was the whole point. And Goliath was not Hebrew. He was a Philistine. So it just kind of shows you how often giants will show up in any kind of narrative structure like this, where they're trying to big fish this shit. And, Goliath just kept getting taller over time. It's like that movie, Big Fish. Everything's just like, it was all in that movie anyway. It was all true, but it was like, it was blown out of proportion, but, that seems like how a lot of these stories are. It probably was just some fight with a younger guy, right? Not a kid, younger guy, right? And a man who's kind of tall, and it turns into a child versus a 12-foot tall guy. You know what I mean? Like, just over time, that's just how these things function.
There's a lot of belief
anyway.
And so I remember thinking like, cool, man, like if there's aliens, what that means nothing to me about Jesus, right? Because they could be these demonic forces that came down, all that kind of stuff. It was never like oh my gosh, they're gonna try to use disprove Christianity, but now they're starting to finally come out.
I always wondered that, because I remember that movie Paul, and I remember being so uncomfortable about it because I was still deeply, deeply Christian. Wow, this guy is super white. It's funny because I like zoned out and I didn't even. Wow. Okay. No. Yeah. That's a fucking white guy. Holy shit. All right. But I was watching that movie Paul, and I just remember there was like this Christian lady that's in the movie, right? And she's like, she can't swear, she's just like, what the bitch is that? And so it's like pretty funny actually. But she sees the alien Paul, and he's like, this is why your God doesn't exist, because how do you explain me? And I always remember being like, I don't get that. Like, how exactly does that work? Because my whole understanding of aliens in the Bible and all of that is there was just an alien Jesus. There was an alien Jesus who went to their planet, and he got just murdered by the aliens on that planet, probably in a different way. Maybe they have like some futuristic evaporator or something that torturously evaporates you slowly or something. You're right. And then he came back to life after he got evaporated in the evaporator. And so then the aliens could all get saved. Right. That was my understanding. I'm not even kidding. I know that sounds ridiculous, and it is, but that's literally what I used to believe.
The government is admitting, or I think it's ex-CIA officer came out, and a couple of them, they're doing public interviews, which is crazy because whistleblowers usually would just be quiet and like disappear. These guys are doing public interviews, saying that they have aircrafts and they have these.
Yeah, I don't know. That almost makes it seem like it's possibly a publicity thing. I'm not really sure about any of this stuff. The one thing that I saw was a whistleblower saying that they were having conversations with non-human intelligence, and that's it. That's all he really said. We've been having these conversations with. Oh, and I guess he said that they had aircraft too, but I don't know. Maybe what if it's an AI from the future or something? I don't know. I mean, if you just say non-human intelligence, you're not necessarily saying that it's an alien. And that's on the other video I watched. He said that he's like, well, it's not necessarily an alien. It could be from another dimension. I mean, and then they both were just like, oh, like demons. So he said it's from another dimension. It's like, no, man, they didn't actually say. Anyway, but it's like
bodies
over a dozen.
Which is crazy. But I think those of us that have kept up with it, probably.
Answer said, let's see. Whistleblowers are quiet and disappear. I'm telling you, it's like part of this Illuminati. Like it's all in that vein of conspiracy, brain rot. Do they not understand how blowing whistles works? That's very quiet. It's like a dog. They're blowing a dog whistle. And only a couple people can hear. Mostly the racists, mostly them.
It's not outside the realms to acknowledge that there's probably something else out there. And now they're saying that there's these aliens, and you have a different take on it though. What do you think about all this stuff?
It's a challenging. What I'm fascinated with is that it's finally coming out. And now the question is, what is it?
What
is it? Just a great delusion? And the Bible says that there will be a great delusion.
That's too funny. Hold on. It's like, is it just a delusion? The Bible says. I'm like, oh man, I thought you were you missed it. Like the Bible says there will be a great delusion. It's not the delusion itself. It's not the delusion. Like it just tells us that there's anyway. I'm still wrong
in the end. And so is it that? Is it truly aliens? And if it's truly aliens, I think the thing that Christians have been scared of is, well, that means that we're not the center of the universe. Well, God is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And God in the beginning.
That makes sense because it's clearly nowhere near where we're at. So I guess the center of the universe is somewhere non-existent because that's where the God is.
God created the
heavens and the earth.
And so that means everything in every single galaxy he created would be his created being. So I don't think that the existence.
That's so funny that they moved it to mean that like the heavens and the earth just meant like the earth and then everything that's like the sky and stuff, right? The clouds, the skies, and the earth. Right. And they used to believe there was a flat earth, right? And the heavens was up here and the flat earth was down here. Firmament is in there somewhere, it's in there. That's what they meant by the heavens and the earth. And now it's like all of space is the heavens. That's where the heavens are. It's just anywhere not on this planet. Like
of said extraterrestrials, if there are any, like means that we're not the center, or because we shouldn't be.
Right.
And I don't think that it also means that Jesus didn't die for those people as well, or those whatevers as well.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, so he's a little bit more in the same vein that I used to be, because see how they have to think about it. They have to think of it from the perspective. It's like, well, but what happens to them when they die? Do they have souls? because they can't just be going to hell because they're from another planet. That's not fair. And God's all about fairness.
Redemptive plan for us could have been, I don't know. I don't know, but I know that he's a savior of them as well. If there is anybody else.
Interesting.
But then there's the other side, and the other side is that they're demons. How a demon is
that is the other side. That's what I was thinking, is that there's only two options here. They're either, can be saved by Jesus too, or demons. That's really your only two options here.
and everywhere at once, right? They're not omnipresent. They can only be in one place. So how does they get from one place to the next? Do they have any sort of technology? I mean, are we the only ones who can create things, or can angels?
Hold on. Is he actually suggesting that demons have vehicles because they are not omnipresent like God? So they have to be able to get places quickly. And so they have super demon technology? Fucking what is You've seen way too many movies, dude. That's what that is. Like, you're just, wow, man. How do you get to that? Like, how do you get to that in your head and go, that's reasonable. That right there. That makes sense. That's probably the true thing right there. Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus.
And so it makes me question, like, I mean, if Satan, we think that he's got horns and a red tail or whatever, but if he can appear as an angel of light, could they not appear?
They love repeating that line. Oh, if he can appear as an angel of light, wow. And they always say, like, oh, and that's how the devil usually appears, because they've just seen him appear so many goddamn times, right?
As 5 moving lights that people are catching in the sky, or the latest one from Vegas, this falling light, and then somebody sees.
Yeah, just the demons travel via wormholes and portals. Yes,
he's some
8-foot figure,
8 or 9 foot figure in somebody's backyard with big eyes. Well, if he can be an angel of light, he could be an 8-foot figure. Why would he want?
If we're dealing with stupid magic nonsense, it can be whatever we want. That's just how that goes, right?
To have people think, why is it that for the last 50 some odd years, we've been fascinated with aliens, from Independence Day and all these other movies and stuff? Why?
Because we're curious creatures, man. And we're pretty sure that your religion isn't right. And so it's probably the case that our planet doesn't matter, and there are other planets sort of similar to ours that have life on it that we just could never get to. And so it's fun to think about what they could be like, because we're by nature curious creatures. We just are.
What are we being prepared for is the question that I have. And I believe it's
good question. Good question. And in rapture. Yeah, of course. Yep.
I believe think back to X-Files.
You got it.
You remember Mulder?
Yeah. I remember in the X-Files all this stuff about the rapture.
That it got abducted by aliens, the close encounters.
And now I got a copyright strike. That's great. Thanks.
Gets beamed up and they're gone. Well, when just a few months ago, the Pentagon said that there could be an alien mothership in orbiting somewhere outside of us.
No, dude. I don't know if y'all saw that. I did cover it in a video ways back. And I'm sorry, I can't remember which stream I did it on. But there was it was so obviously a light that was coming off of the White House, kind of like a spotlight, and it was just hitting the clouds. And so it was like a couple clouds were a little bit lit up. That's what it was. And they're like, portal to hell or to another dimension because of the clouds lit up like that. It's like, dude, that's a fucking spot. That's just a light, man. It's cloudy and that's a light. That's all there is.
What are they
so funny
preparing us for? What happens when this many millions of people disappear? Do you think that they need to have an excuse for it? I believe that excuse is going to be, they're going to call it the blip, maybe the vanishing, the whatever. But I believe they're going to say it was a close encounter. It was alien abduction. And our Thief in the Night music video addresses this. I believe they're just going to justify
wow, this dude, it's funny how because he's saying all the stuff I used to think when I was, a Christian and everything. And it's like, yeah, I used to say, oh, they're making this whole alien thing so that they can blame it for the rapture,
Fight. This is why all these crashes have happened. This is why all these planes are down. This is why these people are taken. And it's obviously not the rapture because a lot of Christians are left behind.
Christians.
Wait, what?
Exactly, because many will say, Lord.
Okay, is he trying to say that it already happened? The people that have been abducted, like the 4 people that don't have their stories aligning with one another at all. Some of the aliens are like long hair blonde people. Other ones are the grays, and other one I don't even remember, like the reptilian human. Like it just gets stupid with the lore that goes into this stuff.
Lord, but I'll say, depart from you. You didn't know me.
I love this guy. That sounds sarcastic. That sounds like a sarcastic like yeah, buddy, sure. Can you hurry up and finish your stupid ass thought?
I believe the church, many churches will have a lot of people in them. And those people will say, well, clearly this wasn't that. Maybe some will finally then repent. But I believe the world is going to see just enough supposed Christians to think maybe this is not that. This is something.
It's so funny because like those verses were put in the Bible as basically a failsafe, because they know that there's always going to be there's so many different interpretations, so many different doctrines, so many different ways you can look at this book and this belief in this religion, right? They're going to have to say, oh, and there are some false teachers. That way everybody can just immediately point the finger at everybody else, and say that, hey, they're a false teacher. And they say, no, you're a believing false teacher. Oh, you're a believing false teacher. And everybody's just in an infinite line of people pointing at each other, saying that they're believing false teachers.
Some sort of blip. And then I believe that they're going to be united in this the way we were united after 9/11. And remember, all the religions came together in one church.
Did they?
And they were all.
I do not remember that. I definitely don't remember any Christians coming together with Muslims after 9/11. In fact, the hate crimes against Muslim Americans skyrocketed after that. But yeah, sure, all the religions came together, buddy. You and your Buddhist friends, like, we're all hanging out.
All these pastors and whatevers were preaching and praying and stuff. And it was like, what? This is an abomination of desolation. I believe there's going to be a great uniting over those who are gone.
Wait,
and that
he was saying that was a bad thing for the religions to all come together? He was saying that's the abomination of desolation. I thought the abomination of desolation was supposed to be when the Antichrist goes into the temple that doesn't exist, in Israel or whatever, sets up himself to be worshipped, then creates a statue of himself, then demands that the statue be worshipped, and then he breathes life into the statue, kills a bunch of people, scares them, and then everybody has to bow down to the statue, and whoever doesn't gets killed, and everybody has to get a mark and all that stuff. That's the abomination of desolation. Like,
that is going to set us up for the tribulation period.
Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Cation on. Or there might even be other species that Jesus could have died for as well.
It could be one of those two. I lean towards the demon side of
maybe,
because I lean towards Satan creating this narrative that there is this other thing that means that God isn't the God of just here, but and if they're better or smarter, maybe we should worship them or focus on them. And in Roswell, you see them doing that. But ultimately, I believe that this is going to be used at least in a part of a great delusion, whether they truly are extraterrestrial or not. I believe they are going to be using this as an excuse as to why it's some sort of mass alien abduction, some sort of blip, some sort of Thanos snapping. Think about it. So Thanos was extraterrestrial.
You think they know that a rapture is coming?
Well, they read the same word that we do.
Okay, so you think so? They say
Satan is looking through Thessalonians.
So they're reading the Bible,
of course.
And
this is just getting dumber and dumber as this guy continues to talk.
They're seeing that something's
changing
coming.
The narrative to point people away from Jesus.
Interesting. So they're reading the Bible. They're thinking the Bible is true. And in preparation of what they think the Bible is going to be true about, they're having...
they're reshaping a lot.
I love that he's trying to evaluate it and trying to be so polite about the nonsense this guy's saying.
A new
it's
narrative.
just funny.
Interesting.
In the same way that
why don't they just believe the Bible and believe in Jesus? That sounds like a lot of work.
Because the people who are doing that are fallen angels.
Yeah, because that's what I feel like. This guy missed his entire like what he was saying. He was saying that the demons are the ones that know the end, and of course they believe in it. They're literally figments of the imagination of people who made up that religion. Okay, so of course in the lore, the demons believe that Jesus is God and all this stuff is going to be happening. And this guy did not catch on to that at all. Like, that was so funny.
and they can't turn around and believe in Jesus anymore. So
the people
I believe not people, but the enemy. The enemy is essentially Satan. Satan knows the scripture. He twists it. He quoted the scripture.
Now
Jesus
got it. He's got it.
In the desert like crazy.
And so
that's why you got to listen instead of just and at people, as if you're listening.
Is influencing.
This enemy is influencing others
in government.
It could be. It could be that. It could be that he's.
Or maybe not in government. Maybe just in business. Like Elon Musk. Who knows?
These ships himself.
I'm pushing to see how far you're going to go down to conspiracy. Are we going to get into lizard people in the firmament?
I don't know.
There we go. Okay, I appreciate that he said that. Okay. All right. No, that's wow. I was not expecting that to come out of this dude's fucking face. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, what's those are. But I do know this.
Awesome.
I do know that those things are either.
So Andrew said this is the danger of Christianity. People lose the ability to discern fact from fiction. He's just making up shit or making shit up, and suddenly by virtue of him speaking it, it's reality. Exactly. I could not have put it better myself. That is exactly the problem. I always used to say, if your epistemological framework suggests that a demonstrable fact like evolution is crazy, but believing that a talking donkey is reasonable, then you can't tell fact from fiction. It's true.
Extraterrestrial.
That's the problem with religion
or
in
they're
general.
Created by demons and Satan, and they're created for that narrative. But either way, I believe that narrative is going to be what we're going to hear when we disappear.
Yeah.
What is going to be used as the narrative for that?
Yeah.
And as to the validity of these things, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do I think that they're I've watched enough movies to think maybe so, maybe not. Yeah. But I also see
why would movies influence you one way or the other on this fucking thing? Why would that be the case? Why would you say, hey, I've seen enough movies to know what aliens do? Are you kidding me? What? Man, like here, listen to yourself.
Conspiracy theories, if you look at what the world is doing, people are also looking at the book of Revelation saying, okay, well, if this is going to happen, I want to get a piece of that mark. I want to be the one who controls that.
See, and here's the thing. When it comes to stuff like end times, revelation type shit, right? It's perfect for conspiracy thinking, right? Because you have this structure, you have this like understanding that's not happening. That's not coming true in any way, shape, or form. There is no Antichrist. There is no one world government. There is no one world religion. There is no temple in Israel, for Christ's sake. There's nothing. There's none of it is actually coming true. So what ends up happening is these Christians that need to believe this stuff, they feel like they need to have this be true. And so because of that, they will sit there and say, oh no, the end times are actually happening. It's just a secret. The Illuminati is doing it all behind the scenes, right? And it's perfect for them to be able to just ignore reality and then act like it's all a false flag and all that shit so that they can believe that their end times are actually happening. And I've heard it's from every possible angle you can, I heard one saying that the end time, the tribulation already happened. And it was Kennedy. Kennedy was the Antichrist, and he actually came back to life after he got assassinated. And the world is united, but we just don't know about it. Like it's insane.
Wonder if AI plays into the mark, because how in the world can it know whether you can buy or sell? Recently an AI was interviewed at what do you know about me? And the AI said, I know everything about every human on the planet. Like what? And obviously they don't, but they would know if there was some sort of mandate.
I don't know. The metaverse does. It seems to have a really vast collection of data on just about everybody, to the point where, that documentary about like the algorithm programming us, the great hack or whatever on Facebook was actually quite compelling and quite scary. If it, I don't think that it's totally true, but I think there are aspects of it that are true.
To buy or sell. Yesterday I was at a restaurant and it said no cash. You know, like
Spooky said the end times are going to happen any minute now. Any minute. No, just don't. No, go ahead and hold your breath. Hold your breath. It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, so we're moving away from a cashless society. We're moving towards a cashless society. And we're moving towards this digital currency. And now they're talking about some sort of chip in your brain, you know? And if you tap that into AI.
The Neuralink does not work, man. It's killed a bunch of people. Like, as far as I understand, like it has no actual application. The closest thing that you can get to it is there are these things that are being worked on. I don't think they're like internal though. They're just something that somehow maps the brainwaves and then allows it so people that have like that can't move their arms or legs, they can move a mouse around and stuff like that, as far as I know. And I think that's even really shoddy as far as like its efficacy.
Then all of a sudden you could find yourself in a place where if you accepted some sort of whatever the mark, whatever you call it, it could change your brain.
That's what it's literally called.
In a way where you could never accept the reality of Jesus being Lord.
Oh my God.
Because think about it.
Weird. What a weird fucking thing. Like, okay, so once they program your once you take the chip, it's like, oh, hey, you're not allowed to ever believe in Jesus now. Like I mean, I think the internet's basically just done that anyway, because we're like, oh yeah, these beliefs are stupid. You know?
Gets the mark cannot repent of that. The Bible says. So how can you do that unless you were some sort of half cyborg or something? You know, how can somebody not repent from that?
Or it's not true, man. Or your entire religion is nonsense. Maybe that could be an answer for this.
You know, unless they change your firmware to where you cannot accept that belief anymore. So it could be, I don't know. All I know is that the technology now is here that we haven't had in the past. And I don't believe that in the 70s a barcode could have done it.
I see what you're saying.
Or the things,
but they certainly thought that a barcode could do it back then. I mean, every single time we've had any kind of advance in any sort of anything in regards to buying and selling, because of that one fucking Bible verse, everybody's like freaked out about credit cards. They're like, oh, the credit cards are the mark of the beast. Oh, and then now it's, I don't know, the vaccine. Fucking vaccine, for Christ's sake. That was mark of the beast. Everything is the goddamn mark of the beast. Like, Jesus.
So right now we're at a time where it's fascinating. It's moving. I believe it's the season, if not
interesting.
Time.
Hey, this is a segment for my.
Okay. Everything is the season. It's always the season. You know, God, it's just ridiculous. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching. And you know what you should do? You should go to adamandeve.com and enter code word BRENTLY and get your 50% off almost any one item. You get 3 free gifts. That's a gift for him, gift for her, and a gift you'll both enjoy. And then there is 6 free DVDs or free movies. I don't know what form they come in, and free shipping on the entire order. So go over to adamandeve.com, enter code BRENTLY, and you can have access to that exclusive offer. But otherwise, hey, thanks for watching. And I think I might be back in just a little bit to do a second one here, because I got a little bit of time and I've got several videos backed up that I really wanted to cover. So, but I really appreciate everybody watching, and we will definitely see you next time. Make sure to stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate. And we'll see you next time.